Hello, I am Amlene. Welcome to my general mathematics class.
Hello, we are now on our week 3 of second quarter. The topic for this session is about fair market value and deferred annuity. Now let's first have a quick review. For the simple interest, we have the formula interest is equal to principal times rate times term. Now for the future value of simple interest, F is equal to principal times the quantity 1 plus rate times term. Now for compound interest, if the compounding period is annually, the formula for future value is F is equal to principal times the quantity 1 plus rate quantity raised to term. Now if the compounding period is more than once a year, like monthly, quarterly, or semi-annual, we have the formula for future value. F is equal to principal times the quantity 1 plus rate over the compounding period, quantity raised to compounding period times T or times time, term. Now next is about annuity. We have here the derived formula of ordinary annuity. Future value. The formula for future value is F is equal to R times the quantity 1 plus J quantity raised to N minus 1 all over or divided by J, where F is the future value, R is the regular payment, J is the interest rate per period, and N is the number of payments. Now, the present value, we have the formula P is equal to R times 1 minus the quantity 1 plus J, quantity raised to negative N over J, or divided by J, where P is the present value, R is the regular payment, J is the interest rate per period, and N is the number of payments. Now, some problem solves or asked to solve for the regular payment or periodic payment. Now, we have a formula that can be derived to solve for the R of an annuity. So, we either use the formula for the future value or the formula for the present value of an annuity. Now, if we're going to use the formula of the future value of an annuity, we have this original formula F is equal to R times the quantity 1 plus J raised to N minus 1 divided by J. Deriving this formula to solve for R, we can come up with R is equal to F, or the future value, divided by this whole part 1 plus J raised to N minus 1 over J, or divided by J. Now, if we're going to derive our formula from the present value, we have the original formula P is equal to R times 1 minus quantity 1 plus J raised to negative N over J is its derivation to solve for R. We have R is equal to P divided by, or the present value divided by this whole part 1 minus quantity 1 plus J raised to negative N over J. Now, where R is the regular payment, P is the present value of an annuity, F is the future value of an annuity, J is the interest rate per period, and N is the number of payments. Now, this can be rewritten naman. If you find it hard to use this written formula, you can rewrite this in this manner. So, Pwede na po itong sulatan ng ganyan, minus 1 over j. So, ang gagawin natin to solve for r, you can first solve what is on this part, then you divide it to f. So, ganun din po dito pag ang given is present value. So, r is equal to the present value divided by 1 minus the quantity 1 plus j raised to negative n divided by j. Now, first, you solve this part here bago po natin i-divide this to the present value. Here are the other formulas that were discussed previously. We have the future and present value of general annuity. The future value f and the present value p of a general annuity is given by f is equal to r times the quantity 1 plus j raised to n minus 1 divided by j, and p is equal to r times 1 minus 1 plus j raised to negative n divided by j, where r is the regular payment, j is the equivalent interest rate per payment interval converted from the interest rate per period, and n is the number of payments. So take note, the formulas for f and p are same as those in simple annuity. The extra step occurs in finding j. So we have a different formula for finding j. The given interest rate per period must be converted to an equivalent rate per payment interval. So this was discussed previously, so I hope that's still fresh on your minds. So number of decimal places when solving for an equivalent rate j should be 6 or more decimal places will be used. If you use fewer or more decimal places, your answers may differ from the answers provided in the text. So you can ignore these discrepancies, but it is suggested that you use at least 6 decimal places or the exact value. Okay, so that's all for our review. Let's start with the introduction. Many business establishments offer their customers different discounts and incentives. One of these is the usual deferment of first payment if the customer uses credit cards applying for a loan and others. The term deferment denotes delayed first payment, not because of inability to pay but as an incentive. Example po, pag yung promotion ng SM ng credit cards. So, usually, the payment starts after 3 months or after a month. Depende po kung ano yung promo nila. Then, sa car loan, ganun din. 3 months or at least 1 month is being deferred. That is, you're going to start the payment after a month. So, yung mga ganun promotion, that is what we describe as deferment. So, here is an illustrative example about deferment. What is the present value of annuity formed by a sequence of 6 semi-annual payments of 750 pesos with worth 6% compounded semi-annually, the first of which is due at the end of 2 years. So this example illustrates that the first payment is due at the end of 2 years. So after 2 years, pa magsisimula ang kanyang payment of 750 pesos. Now, let's talk about fair market value of cash flow. Let's first have definition of terms. A cash flow is a term that refers to payments received or made. Cash inflows, payments received, can be represented by positive numbers. Cash outflows, payments or deposits made, can be represented by negative numbers. Now, the fair market value or economic value of a cash flow, that is also known as payment stream, on a particular date refers to a single amount that is equivalent to the value of the payment stream at that date. This particular date is called the focal date. Now, let's understand further about fair market value with this given example. Mr. Ribaya received 2 offers on a lot that he wants to sell. First offer is from Mr. Ocampo, who offered 50,000 pesos and a 1 million lump sum payment 5 years from now. Another offer from Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz has offered 50,000 pesos plus 40,000 pesos every quarter for 5 years. Compare the fair market values of the two offers if money can earn 5% compounded annually. Which offer has a higher market value? Analyzing the given problem, we can come up with the given data. The offer of Mr. Ocampo, 50,000 pesos as down payment, 1 million pesos as payment after 5 years. Now for Mr. Cruz's offer, 50,000 pesos, also down payment, and 40,000 pesos every quarter for 5 years. Now what is asked is the fair market value of each offer. So we have our solution. First, we illustrate the cash flows of the two offers using the time diagrams. So the time diagram of Mr. Ocampo's offer, initial payment or the down payment of 50,000 pesos. Then after 5 years is the payment of 1 million pesos. Now for Mr. Cruz's offer, we have the initial payment or down payment, which is 50,000 pesos. And for the every quarter of 40,000 pesos payment in 5 years. Next is to choose the focal date and determine the values of the two offers at the focal date. For example, the focal date can be the date at the start of the term. So since the focal date is at t equals 0, so compute for the present value of each offer. Next is for Mr. Ocampo's offer, since 50,000 pesos is offered today, then its present value is still 50,000 pesos. The present value of 1 million pesos offered 5 years from now is, using the formula of our compound interest, P is equal to F, or the present value is equal to the future value times the quantity 1 plus j raised to negative n. So substituting the given, we have P is equal to 1 million times 1 plus the 5%, which is 0.05 raised to negative 5. So we have the present value of 783,526 pesos and 20 centavos. So the fair market value, or FMV, is equal to down payment plus the present value. So adding 783,526 pesos and 20 cents to 50,000 pesos is equivalent to 833,526 pesos and 20 cents, which is the fair market value of Mr. Ocampo's offer. Now for Mr. Cruz's offer, we first compute for the present value of a general annuity with quarterly payments but with annual compounding at 5%. So different payment or payment interval and compounding period. So this describes a general annuity. So solve first the equivalent rate compounded quarterly of 5% compounded annually. Since the offer Mr. Cruz is a general annuity, we first solve for the J, or the interest rate per period. So using the formula F1 is equal to F2, so equating the future value with the payment interval of quarterly and the future value of the compounding period annually. Okay, so cancel P. So what is left is 1 plus I, which is compounded quarterly, over the compounding period 4 times the quantity 20, which is the total number of payments, equal to 1 plus 0.05, which is the compounding interest rate, divided by 1, which is compounded annually, then the number of payments, which is 1 times 5, that is 5. Now we're going to solve for the I, which is so J is equal to the compounding period of quarter. We have 0.012272. So again, we at least get 6 decimal values for the interest rate per period. Now, after solving for the interest rate per period, which is J, we can now solve for the present value of an annuity, which is given by P is equal to R times 1 minus the quantity 1 plus J raised to negative n over J. Substituting the given, we have present value is equal to 40,000 pesos times 1 minus the quantity 1 plus 0.012272 quantity raised to negative 20. So n is equal to 20, that is 5 times 4, divided by J, which is 0.012272. Now using your calculator, first input this given on the denominator, then divide it to this value. Then we can come up with the present value, which is 705,572 pesos and 72 cents. Now for the fair market value, or FMV, we add the present value to the down payment. Then we have 50,000 pesos plus 705,572 pesos 72 cents. That is equivalent to 755,572 pesos and 70 centavos. So that is the fair market value of Mr. Cruz's offer. Now comparing the market values of the two offers, the offer of Mr. Ocampos and Mr. Cruz, we can come up with a decision that Mr. Ocampos' offer has a higher market value. Now to get the difference between the market values of the two offers at the start of the term is we simply subtract the fair market value of Mr. Ocampos' offer and Mr. Cruz's offer, which is 833,526 pesos and 20 cents minus 755,572 pesos and 70 cents, which is the difference of 77,953 pesos and 50 cents. Now we can also compute using a focal date at the end of the term. Still, you're going to get the same values. Okay, now we are going to proceed with the deferred annuity. Definition of terms. Deferred annuity, it is an annuity that does not begin until a given time interval has passed. Period of deferral, that is the time between the purchase of an annuity and the start of the payments for the deferred annuity. We have here the time diagram for a deferred annuity. R with an asterisk and R and series of R without asterisk. Start at 0 but no regular payment done. So we start at 1, 2, the time of K, K plus 1, K plus 2, and K plus N. So in this time diagram, the period of deferral is K. So the period of deferral is until the time K, because the regular payments of R start at time K plus 1. The notation R with asterisk represent K artificial payments, each equal to R but are not actually paid during the period of deferral. To determine the present value of a deferred annuity, find the present value of all K plus N payments, including the artificial payments, then subtract the present value of all artificial payments. Now to get the present value of the deferred annuity, we have this given formula. P is equal to R times the quantity 1 minus quantity 1 plus J raised to negative k plus n. So instead of n log, we have k plus n divided by j minus r times 1 minus 1 plus j raised to negative k over j. Okay, so r is the regular payment, j is the interest rate per period, n is the number of payments, and k is the number of conversion periods in the deferral. Okay. Now to further understand about deferred annuity, here's an example given. So first, on his 40th birthday, Mr. Ramos decided to buy a pension plan for himself. This plan will allow him to claim 10,000 pesos quarterly for 5 years starting 3 months after his 60th birthday. What one-time payment should he make on his 40th birthday to pay off his pension plan if the interest rate is 8% compounded quarterly? So we have the given R, which is 10,000 pesos, M, the compounding period, which is 4 since it is quarterly, and the interest rate is 0.08 from 8%. Now we are going to find the present value. Now for our solution, first, the annuity is deferred for 20 years, and it will go on for 5 years. The first payment is due 3 months, that is 1 quarter, after his 60th birthday, or at the end of the 81st conversion period. Thus, there are 80 artificial payments. So the number of artificial payments, K, is equal to M times T, which is quarterly 4 times 20, that is equivalent to 80. Now the number of actual payments, which is N, is equal to M times T, that is 4 times 5, that is equivalent to 20. Then the interest rate per period is J is equal to quarter interest or interest compounded quarterly divided the compounding period. So we have 0.08 divided by 4, which is 0.02. Now next is, if you assume that there are payments in the period of deferral, there would be a total of K plus N, that is 80 plus 20, which is equal to 100 payments. Now the time diagram. So after 80 payments, we have at the 81st, we start the payment, or we start the regular payment of 10,000 pesos. Thus, the present value of the deferred annuity can be solved using the given formula. P is equal to R times 1 minus the quantity 1 plus J raised to negative quantity K plus N divided by J, and minus R times 1 minus 1 plus J quantity raised to negative K divided by J. So after solving for the values of J, K, and N, substituting the values to the formula, we have 10,000 times 1 minus 1 plus 0.02 quantity raised to 100 divided by 0.02 minus 10,000, 1 minus 1 plus 0.02 raised to negative 80 divided by 0.02. So using your calculator, input or type in these values, and we come up with the present value of 33,538 pesos and 38 cents. Therefore, the present value of this monthly pensions is 33,538 pesos and 38 cents. So, ibig sabihin nun, ito po yung tatanggapin niyang monthly pension, which is 33,538 and 38 cents. Now, let's try the second example. Mr. Quijano decided to sell their farm and to deposit the fund in a bank. After computing the interest, they learned that they may withdraw 480,000 pesos yearly for 8 years, starting at the end of 6 years when it is time for him to retire. How much is the fund deposited if the interest rate is 5% converted annually? So, analyzing the given problem, XB the payment will start at the end of 6 years. So, yung deferred period natin is from year 1 to year 5. Okay? So, since magsisimula po yung payment niya at the end of 6 years. Now, we can come up with the given. The regular payment, which is 480,000 pesos, for the periodic payment. Compounding period is annually, therefore it is 1. J is interest rate per period. That is 0.05 or 5% over 1. Now K, since the payment will start or the withdrawal will start at the end of 6 years, so therefore the first 5 years is the artificial payment, which is the value of K. So K is equal to 5. Since the period M is equal to 1, so 5 times 1. So we have 5. Now N is equal to 8. That is, term is 8 years and compounded annually. So therefore 8 times 1, that is 8. Now what is asked in the problem is the present value. After getting the data, we can substitute the given values on the formula of the present value of the deferred annuity. So ito po yung ating formula. Substitute lang po natin yung mga given data. 480,000 pesos, which is R, times 1 minus 1 plus 0.05 times raised to the negative 13. So negative 13 is K plus N, which is 8 plus 5, divided by 0.05 minus 480,000 pesos times 1 minus 1 plus 0.05 raised to negative 5, that is the value of K, divided by 0.05. Then using your calculator, you type the given, then compute. We come up with the present value of 2,430,766 pesos and 23 cents as the present value. Therefore, the present value of these withdrawals is 2,430,766 pesos and 23 cents. That's all for this session. Hope you've learned something. Thank you for watching and hope you continue watching videos from this channel. Thank you again. God bless.